is Roger Erickson with the National Weather Service. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone's phone lines here first before we start the call.
The leader has muted your line. To unmute your line, press pound 6.
Cyclone 2 briefing on the system that we're now monitoring here in the Gulf of Mexico. Our opening slide says this, that we're having a hurricane threat increasing for our entire forecast region. However, the exact timing and location, intensity, and specific threats is still being developed. So the first swing at it is going to be coming up in these slides here, but expect these numbers to be changing from one advisory to the next as we get closer to the projected landfall. So right now, people should be preparing for hurricane force winds by Saturday and tropical storm force winds starting as early as Friday. Rain totals will be between 10 to 15 inches along and to the right of the path of the storm, which will result in significant flooding. Storm surge will also be significant along coastal areas depending on the strength of the storm. Isolated tornadoes will also be a threat Friday through the entire weekend. Our next slide, we're showing the projected path of Tropical Cyclone 2 that shows it going southwest for the next 24 to 48 hours before shifting on a northwest path, making landfall somewhere in Cameron Parish on Saturday evening. So we're expecting a hurricane to impact our region Saturday, probably Saturday evening. So the immediate concerns is the storm surge, the rains, the hurricane force winds, and the isolated tornadoes. Here's a satellite view of what it looks like right now. It's a very weak low pressure area off the coast of Florida. There's a lot of wind shear to the north of it, which is causing it to slowly develop. They do expect the system to shift further to the south away from the wind shear, and that will cause it to develop more quickly in the 48 to 72-hour time frame. So this thing could go from a tropical storm to a Category 1 or even potentially a Category 2 before it makes landfall. So this graphic here shows you the tropical storm force winds probabilities. You can see very high numbers. We've got the shade of orange is 60 to 70% for pretty much all of our southeast Texas, southwest, south central, and central Louisiana areas. And in fact, it's even higher for the immediate coast where it's 70 to 80% for the coastal sections, basically Cameron, Vermilion, Iberia, St. Mary. Now, the hurricane force probabilities don't show a high value right now. It's between 10 and 20%. But don't be fooled by the low value. This is still an event that's 4 days away. So these values will be increasing every day. This is considered a high threat at this stage of the game for hurricane force wind probabilities this far in advance. So be prepared with the afternoon package to see higher values. Tomorrow we'll see higher values on this as well. Now, the timing of the winds looks like this. Right now, it could be coming in as early as Thursday evening in lower parts of Acadiana, like St. Mary, Iberia parishes, and it could be coming in as early as Friday morning over in southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas. That's the earliest scenario. The more likely scenario is going to be more like Friday evening for the start of tropical storm force winds. But we wanted you to see this slide here to give you an idea of how quickly things are going to be changing here. And if you think about timelines and evacuation timelines, we're getting to the point where 48 hours out is about the time that those decisions are going to need to be made. So I wanted to make sure everyone's aware of the fact of the winds coming in by Friday. Now, even though we don't have a hurricane watch out right now, I do expect the Hurricane Center to issue a hurricane watch for our entire forecast area later on this afternoon with the 4 o'clock package. So if there's things that you would normally do triggered based off of a hurricane watch, I would say go ahead and start doing those things now before the watch is even issued this afternoon. It gives yourself another 6 hours to start things during the daylight hours today before things get going really big tomorrow into Friday. Now, I'm showing a storm surge graphic here, and this is just a generic Category 2 storm surge graphic for the entire region. This is not a graphic that is going to show specifically what's going to happen with this scenario of this potential tropical cyclone. So these values are overdone for some areas, and they may end up being very accurate in some other areas. It depends on where the storm makes landfall and how strong it is. But basically, the values that we're looking at potentially, lower Cameron Parish is 8 to 10 feet above ground level. So this is above a one-story building. and Cameron Parish. Upper Cameron Parish, it's lower, it's 2 to 4 foot. And Vermilion Parish, south of Highway 14, 2 to 8 foot. Iberia Parish, south of 90, south of Highway 14, 2 to 6 foot. And in St. Mary Parish, basically along 90 westward, it's 2 to 6 foot. And those values are all above ground level. So you think about the typical coastal communities that have problems during storm surge events, lower Cameron Parish, all the communities down along the coast there, over in Vermilion Parish, intercoastal city, Pecan Island, those areas that we'll be focusing on over there. In Iberia Parish, looking at, Iberia and Vermilion, Delcombe is going to be a problem area again, like it always is, because of the storm surge backing up the canal so easily in that area. And then down through Iberia and St. Mary, places like Sycamore Point and Burns Point are going to be focus areas as well. So this will be a graphic that will be updated when we get guidance from the Storm Surge Unit at the Hurricane Center. If they think that the water is going to be 3 feet above ground level or more, they're going to issue a storm surge watch. And so that could come out as early as this afternoon, or it might come out later on tomorrow. But it's going to be coming out for part of our area at some point or another. So be prepared to see those graphics coming out sooner than later. This is just giving you a heads up on what we're potentially going to see for this event on Saturday night. The rainfall forecast numbers look like this. You can see a 10-inch plus bullseye over there in St. Mary, Iberia, St. Martin parishes, even parts of Vermilion parishes. That's because that's going to be on the right side of the path of the storm. Now, if the storm goes further to the west, like going into Jefferson County, then that bullseye could be all the way over to Lake Charles. If the storm goes even further west towards Galveston, it could go into Beaumont. So even though we're showing these values right now for the Acadiana region being the bullseye for the rainfall, this is a very fluid scenario where it could be shifting east or west depending on where the landfall projection ends up showing. So just be aware of that. The tornado threat, this is what we're looking at for Friday during the daytime. Basically, all of our Louisiana area is going to be another threat. We're expecting rain bands to be in our area by Friday afternoon. We do have rain in the area coming in from the east today and tomorrow as well. That's not necessarily rain bands associated with this tropical system, but we will be monitoring them because there will be potential for some severe thunderstorms and potentially tornadoes with those storms even in the next couple of days that we're watching these storms out there. So our summary sheet here, we got low confidence regarding the timing and location of where the storm is going to make landfall, how strong it's going to be. But we've got moderate confidence in terms of the fact that the event's actually going to occur and moderate confidence regarding the impacts. So in terms of the wind gusts, right now the Hurricane Center is giving us 75 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts expected, mainly along and south of the I-10 corridor of southwest Louisiana and south central Louisiana, depending on exactly where this landfall projection ends up being. Once again, if it goes further to the west, then that would also include southeast Texas. Storm surge flooding is expected mainly across Cameron, Vermilion, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes. Again, that could be extended further west depending on where the storm makes landfall. And I will say it's going to be backing up in the Calcasieu Parish as well. The Calcasieu River does back up during events. The Vermilion River does back up during these events as well. So be prepared to see water backing up the major rivers as well. Rainfall flooding will be likely along into the right of the storm path, which right now shows central and south central Louisiana. Isolated tornadoes starting Friday to the weekend. And, of course, out in the Gulf of Mexico, where we don't think people should be obviously out there in the offshore conditions, being very dangerous this weekend. So the key takeaways, the hurricane threat is increasing for our entire forecast area, southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana, south central Louisiana, central Louisiana. But the exact timing and location, the intensity and the specific threats are still developing, and we'll be updating it as every forecast package comes out. So as of right now, everyone needs to be prepared for hurricane force winds on Saturday, with tropical storm force winds starting on Friday. Rain totals of 10 to 15 inches along into the right of the path, which will result in flooding. Storm surge can be significant for coastal areas. People that typically see storm surge values along the immediate coast and communities inland that have water backing up the rivers. And then finally, isolated tornadoes will be a threat on Friday through the weekend as well. I will be doing this call again this afternoon at 4:30, but let me unmute everyone.